Now there's a story told in the 17th chapter of the book of Acts. Now it's a story. Whether it was historically true or not, it doesn't really matter. It's trying to push a point to the fore. It is said that the men of Athens spent all day in the marketplace looking for a new idea, either telling one or hearing one. Then came upon the scene one called Paul, and they wondered, what has this babbler to say? What is his new idea? And he told them the idea of Jesus and the resurrection. And we are told the Epicureans and the Stoic philosophers mocked him and scoffed at him. Others say we will hear more about this later. And he said to them, and this is all ironical, if you read it carefully, he said, O men of Athens, I see in every way you are very religious. For as I passed by, I observed the objects of your worship. Now, right away, that's irony. The objects of their worship. Then he said, I noticed this inscription over an altar, to an unknown God. What you therefore worship, unknown, I declare to you. Then he tells them of the only God, the God that created everything, and he's not a God afar off. He is indwelling, he is within every single being in the world, the God of the universe. Not made with hands. You won't find him in a temple, in a church, in a cathedral, or the little objects of your worship that you make of man with your own hands and then worship him and call him Apollo. But here the God that I speak of is within everyone. That's the God of whom I speak. That's the God that raises from the dead. Well, they laughed and they mocked him. Then we are told he went on from Athens to Corinth. What he performed there, no one knows. Whether Athens ever took him up, because they were the wise men. They were called the very learned men of the day. We have them today too. They scoff at anything that is not part of their great voluminous works. But I am telling you, if, as Paul said to the Athenians, if you would only feel after him, you would find him. If you would feel after him, you would find him. Find what? Find the God of the universe. For he gave us not the spirit of the world, but the spirit of himself. That spirit of himself in man is man's own wonderful human imagination. When you say, I am, that's God. The one and only God, and there is no other God. Therefore, he is in every man, every woman, every child born of woman. It is the God in that being that allows that being to breathe, to live, to experience what we call life in this world. That is the immortal you. So the eternal body of man is the imagination. And that is God himself, the one we speak of in the New Testament as Jesus. That is God. But where is he? Something on the outside? No. He is in you. When you say, I am, that's Jesus. Now, the world is taught differently. Therefore, it comes as a shock when they hear it. They don't want to hear it. They will listen if they could simply improve their life in this world, get more money, do things that they want to do, and still hold on to this little object on the outside. So he spoke, I observe the objects of your worship. Well, man does that with what they call Jesus. They take their human hands, they make a mold of something, they call it Jesus, put it on a piece of wood, or put it on something else, stick it on the wall, and then cross themselves for good luck. There is the object of their worship, something they made themselves. The maker is greater than the thing made. No matter how wonderful it's made, certainly the artist is greater than his work. And so we make all these things and put it on the outside and then bow before it and worship. I tell you, your own wonderful human imagination is God. That's God. Now, if I would only observe this and keep it in mind, I should be able to put Paul to the test. He said, feel after him, and you'll find him. Blake said, imagination is spiritual sensation. Spiritual sensation. But how would I feel after him and find him? Well, first of all, he does all things, good, bad, or indifferent. And he waits on me just as indifferently and as swiftly when the will in me is evil as when it is good. Because he is a creative power. He kills, he makes alive, he wounds, he heals. All things are done by the one creative power. There isn't another God who is evil and one that is good, one that is altogether loving and one that is altogether hating. No, only one power. And that power is the human imagination. So, how will I then feel after him? What would the feeling be like if it were true? What true? That I am the man that I would like to be. What would the feeling be like? Test it. For all things are made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. Well, now, if I dare to assume that I am now the man that I want to be, and I persist in that assumption, watching my mind morning, noon, and night, so anything that I find myself dwelling upon that is in conflict with that assumption, I ignore it. I put it aside. I will be faithful to this divine vision, the vision of myself. So anytime I catch myself daring to feel less than the thing that I'm feeling or trying to externalize in my world, I simply stop it and go back to that assumption that I am the man that I want to be. If I persist in it and it becomes a fact, then I've found him. The only name forever and forever that is his name is I am. So that is my name forever. So when you come to the people of Israel and they ask you what is his name, just simply say, I am. That is who I am. And by this name I shall be known throughout all generations. There is no other name. You cannot separate I am from yourself. That's your essential being. And when you say I am, you are all imagination. You cannot stick imagination on the outside and point to it. So you do not observe it as you observe the fruit of imagining. You do not observe imagination as you do objects in space, because you are the reality that is called imagination. This is what we teach here night after night. Now you can test it. What would the feeling be like if it were true that I am now the man that I would like to be? What would the feeling be like? Catch the mood. For the mood determines the fortunes of people rather than the fortunes determine the mood. Man puts it just the opposite. If I had $1 million, he said, oh, I would feel so good. Now, feel as you would if you had it. Catch the mood, and the mood will create that objective hope, if that is your hope. What would the feeling be like if you are now the person you want to be? Well, catch that mood. And wear that mood as you would a suit of clothes. And that mood will actually create an objective state that reflects that mood. So when you turn to some external God, you are turning to a false God. There is no external God. Examine yourselves, said Paul, to see whether you are holding to your faith. Test yourselves. Do you not realize that Jesus Christ is in you? Unless indeed you fail to meet the test. You've just had the test. So if you think of some being on the outside, but I use the word Jesus Christ, you have the wrong Jesus Christ. For we are told by him all things were made. And without him was not anything made that is made. Look into the room. All this was once only imagined. The suits you wear, the dresses you wear, the hats you wear, everything here, the building, was once only conceived in the human imagination and then executed. And if all things were made by him, well, then I must come down to find out who he is. Well, I can't go beyond my own imagination. I know exactly what I imagined. I see the results. So I go back. All things made by him, yes, good, bad, and indifferent. He waits on me just as quickly and just as indifferently when the will in me is evil as when it is good. Is that in Scripture? You'll find it in Scripture. Read it in the book of Deuteronomy. I kill. I make alive. I wound. I heal. And none can deliver out of my hands. I am the Lord. Read it. Read that in the 32nd chapter of the book of Deuteronomy. There is no other God. I am the Lord your God, and besides me there is no other God. I am is that God. As we are told in the 46th Psalm, be still and know that I am God. A man will not believe it, and yet he has evidence morning, noon, and night that his own wonderful creative power, which is his own wonderful human imagination, is producing the phenomena of life. He sees it all around him, but he shuns it away. It's easier for him to genuflect before some little thing made by the human hand. So he put him on the wall and cross himself for luck. I think, no, that's it. That's good. Now I've done my duty today. So he goes to church and he sings the hymns with all the others. And you think, no, I've done my duty, and give generously to the church. Perfectly all right. If you get any pleasure out of it, do it. But that's not serving the true God. If you want a social gathering, certainly go to church. Go to the coffee breaks following the service and ask 1% of those who come out of service, what was the text today? And he will look at you with some vacant look. What? What was the text? What did he say? What was the theme of his subject today? They don't know. But it's a place to go on certain days of the year, especially on Christmas, on Easter, and days of that nature. Others make it a point to go once a week. They think they're doing God a favor. You're walking with God morning, noon, and night. You take him to bed with you because your essential being is God. And there is no other God. Were he not within you, you couldn't even breathe. Your breath is God. Every child born of woman is God incarnate. If man only knew that, there could be no war in the world. Killing man is killing God. For every child born of woman is the incarnation of God. Whether you be black, yellow, pink, white, or any other color, there is no other being in this world but God. So the incarnation takes place every time a little child is born and it breathes, and you spank it to get it to cry. That moment was the incarnation of God. How can you kill him? How can you hurt him? Just teach him and show him what power is latent within him. For the whole vast world aches for the awakening of the imagination in man.
Neville Goddard was a prominent figure in spirituality, and his teachings often emphasized the idea that God or divine power resides within each individual rather than outside themselves. This concept suggests that one's beliefs, imagination, and inner states of consciousness shape their external reality. I think you've heard it from this audio that he is saying anything external from you, if you're worshiping it, that's a fake God. That is not the true God. The true God is within you. And I think even if you explore certain biblical books that are not included in the Bible, like the Gospel of Thomas, they actually say the same thing, that God is within you, not outside. So, Neville Goddard also taught that the human imagination is a powerful force that can create and manifest experiences in the physical world. He often stated that individuals should look inward for the source of their experiences, affirming that their thoughts and beliefs hold the key to transforming their lives. Now, for those who have made use of the law of assumption, please tell us about your experiences. Do you agree with Neville Goddard's teachings, or do you think this is just some hearsay or philosophy that doesn't really apply into this real world?